In this presentation, I would like to take a look at the installation of the intake and the exhaust valve into your Honda GC series engine. So let's take a look at the expectations before we get into this lab. You're going to make sure to install the correct valves into the correct ports. Again, there's a difference between the intake and the exhaust valve. The intake valve has a dish on the head, and the exhaust valve is heavier and has a thicker margin along with a flat head. You're going to use oil or some type of thin lubricant. Do not use a grease on the valve stems. It's very hard for oil to get in there and wash that out. You're going to ensure the valves spin. So we're actually going to put the valves in backwards for the first time to make sure that the guides are super clean. I'll show you what I'm talking about in the demonstration. And then you will put a oil seal, a lip seal, if you will, on the intake valve only. You're going to put 2 springs and 2 keepers on to finish the job, and then you're going to orient the flat portion of the keeper with the flywheel end of the engine. Let's take a look. Before we begin, we're going to place a couple of drops of oil down the valve guide on each side. And then we're going to take the accompanying valve and we're going to make sure that we thoroughly coat the entire stem with a film of oil. So this is the exhaust valve. We'll install that, and you notice it just glides effortlessly into the engine. It spins silently, if you will. There's no grinding, no hiccups, anything like that. That is exactly what we're looking for. We're going to do the exact same thing with the intake valve here. We're just checking at this point to make sure that the guides are nice and clean. Again, this one's nice and silent. There's no grinding whatsoever. Turns nice and free. It's not quite as heavy, so it sinks a little bit slower, but that's expected. So basically, we've passed the clean valve guide test. I'm simply going to pull these out one more time. I'm going to wipe them off one more time, get any last little bit of stuff off of them, and then we'll go ahead and install them in the engine. To install the valves into the engine, we're going to recoat the valve stem with some oil. We're going to place the correct valve into the correct port. Slides right through. We're going to place a spring on it and a keeper. We're going to use our finger to put some pressure on the valve. Then we're going to install the keeper, and we're going to orient the flat spot facing the flywheel. You'll notice when you push on the valves that it's nice and smooth. There should be no friction and no binding whatsoever. We're going to do exactly the same thing with the intake. Some oil on it, smear it around. And install it into the appropriate guide. The intake valve is going to be slightly different. We're going to put a drop of oil in the seal. We'll use our finger to hold the valve in. We'll install the seal, slide it all the way down. We'll put the spring on, and then we will install the keeper. We'll orient the flat spot of the keeper toward the flywheel side of the engine. We'll also notice that that moves silently, just like the exhaust valve. Everything is installed correctly and will work. This has been a look at how to install the valves into your Honda GC series engine.